Welcome back to Evolution on the Mic. I am Antoine Dove, the co host of Evolution on the Mic, and we are back with our second compilation episode of the season. And this is the best of 2024. This is everything that Ariana and I have shot through this entire year, and we're sharing it with you. And these are some of the episodes that mean the most to us. And for these last few that we're going to do in this part two series, we're going to be going back and revisiting some of the interviews that we've had with some really special guests. There are some things that were shared in these interviews that I think you're really going to enjoy, things about perseverance, things about pushing through, and things about faith. I hope you enjoy this episodes.
I am so excited for this episode and, to share with the world, who you are and everything you've done and everything God has done in you. So, this is about you right now, girl.
Thank you.
As we were getting to know you, Andrea, you mentioned having being passionate about helping people understand the positive connection they can create with others. And we just want to know and want you to elaborate a little bit on what do you mean by that and how do you go about doing that?
So I love bringing people together. I have like different groups of friends and communities that I'm involved in. And I know that people struggle with finding different avenues for their careers, their passions, or love for people and each other and God. And community is not always about finding it in the church. You can find community anywhere in the things that you do and things like that. So if I have these lovely people and they all can take value from each other, then I want to connect them. So that's why when I created my book, the title Connections Between Us, we all have a connection. We're all human. We all have mothers, fathers. We all believe in something, right? So, and I always tell people without faith, you have nothing. So we just can't say that, oh, I'm going to have this job. I had a conversation with my son today. And he was just like, Mom, I do so much for people and they don't give me that back in return. And I just want to give up. And I said, you can't do that, son. If you don't have faith, you don't have anything. If you lose your faith, you're going to lose your career and the things that you really, really love doing. So you have to keep that faith and just pray and ask God to help you find what you're searching for. Maybe those are not your people. So you have to find your people.
Awesome. That's perfectly said. And you shared with us before when we were chatting that you never knew hate from anyone but your own people, which inspired you to write the poem called Us. And I just want to know more about like who were those people that were showing you so much hatred? Like kind of give us the background of that story.
So I always wanted to help like the young Black and brown girls that look like me or came from the same adversity in communities that I came from. So I started working in different facilities, group homes for underage youth. I first started working with boys, but I'm like, I'm a woman. What can I teach? I can't teach a boy how to be a man. So I started venturing out to different female facilities and just making that connection. I noticed that it was just a lot of hurt. The staff was treating the girls really bad and not connecting with them. And they told me that I wouldn't be able to have 8 or 20 girls work together in programs. And when I did, they were upset, by that, or they felt threatened by me. Instead of helping me, they had the girls tried to have the girls lie on me, or I would get voted employee of the month every month by the girls. And I was told that, oh, they can't vote for me anymore. I was under investigation because, the staff all came together to lie on me and they were like my people, and I was young. I was like 23, 24. And I was crying. I was going to quit, but it was just one Black lady. She was my manager, Miss Bobby Munger. And she said, Andrea, you know who you are. And wipe those tears from your face. God got you. God had you all this time. So stand in your faith and believe that this too shall pass. And it did. And because I believed her and I believed in God, and I didn't let that bother me. And when I did have those investigations by all these different organizations, they told me, we know you didn't do anything wrong. We know that they're jealous of you and you're doing a good job and just continue to do what you're doing. but it just hurt me so bad because it was just like, how could you just lie on people? And that was my biggest thing. Like, that what angered me was when people lied on me, and I had to fix that. Like, people are human. They're going to do different things, but you still have to move with love.
Wow, that's beautiful, to kind of go through something like that and have somebody come to you that's an outsider that sees you, right? That person sees something in you that what you were doing to impact those girls, that those girls, respected you and admired you and loved you, for what you were doing in their lives. And there comes the haters, right? Like there comes the people that are trying to bring you down to have you stop doing the things that in your heart God has called you to do. And you were young, like you said. So
Mhm.
that is amazing to see that no matter how young we are, God uses us. That's one. And two, that God uses other people for us not to stop in our tracks when we are in our purpose. I do want to touch on a bit on the book that you currently are kind of revamping, that you already have and that you're kind of now redoing, and it's called the 10 steps to self-love, that
The
you
part the part to change the way to love yourself, the
yeah,
10 steps to self-love.
there you go. So you kind of mentioned some things to me about it. And I really want you to share exactly what you shared with me about what the book is about, what it means to you, like what inspired the book and what is your goal with the book. I kind of want to know a little bit more about it.
So it's just like I was saying earlier, during our initial understanding of love, we are shaped through our families, my mom, your mom and dad first, or mom or dad if you only have one, your siblings if you have siblings, and then it goes on to your friendships at school. And then if you think you get a little boyfriend or girlfriend and you're in that little puppy love stage, in marriage, it all shapes kind of the person that you are. But we never get taught properly how to love ourselves, right? We have this fantasy love. Everybody wants the Cinderella, the princess, kind of love, and you have to do all this for the woman, and we forget about loving the man, properly, and different things like that. So I think it's a disconnect. And sometimes we get it right. A lot of people do get it right, and they find that balance within each other, but a lot of times we don't. We're still fishing for that because either we didn't get that or we want the same love that somebody else has, but that's not for us, right? We have our different path that we have to travel, and a lot of people don't understand that. And that's where the disconnects come in. If you don't love yourself and if you can't sit with yourself, I know a lot of people are, oh, I'm lonely. Why are you lonely? I have a good time with myself. you know?
I can't. I'm trying so hard not to laugh because I know the camera goes to me when I make a noise, but girl, I can't.
Yes, it's just like I love like being alone, just sitting in and I listened like the other day, I was just playing my Kirk Franklin and all the gospel music and just feeling that. Cooking, watching the program by myself or whatever. I don't know what loneliness feels like, right? I want to be connected to somebody and give somebody a chance, which I am, so it's empowering to know who you are, what you want. And when somebody asks you that question, who are you? And you can't answer it because you can't answer it without talking about all these other people and all these other things, but you're asking about you and who you are. What do you like to do? You know. Some people say, well, my kids this, or this is that, or my spouse, or my husband, but we're talking about you. So just getting back to that and not unfairly blaming ourselves for the wrongs that happen like I used to do. I thought that, I was in love because maybe I was born bad, I had these crazy thoughts, and imaginations and things like that. Trying to fix things with my mom, which wasn't my responsibility, right? I did fix things with my dad, and I felt like we had a really great relationship before he passed. But it's about that forgiveness, and I had to learn that forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. And that took me a long, long time to understand. And I was angry, and a lot of things wasn't happening for me in my life because I was holding on to that hate and that resentment and that unforgiveness. But once I let it go, my mom passed away, and I cried. And I'm like, why am I crying? Like, she was a horrible person, you know? And people were like, well, you have feelings and you're a good person. That was your mom. So I talked to a therapist, and he was like, you have to release all of that. And maybe you could write a poem, and you could go like read the poem and just either burn it or tear it up and let it go. And I did that. And I'm telling you, I felt like this heavy weight just come off, and all these great things start happening. Once I release that anger and the shame and the guilt, and release a lot of the people that were not good for me in my life, a lot of doors started opening.
The story that I want to share with you guys today, it's a letter that I wrote to God back in April 15, 2012. And it's so funny that when I showed the letter to Antoine this morning, because I had actually emailed the letter to myself back in 2012. So I want to share the screen and show you guys the letter. And it's timestamped to when I wrote it and when I emailed it to myself. And Antoine brought up a good point. He was like, Ariana, are you kidding me? Is that real? Like, today is April 15. And I'm like, I totally could not make that up. When God's put in my heart to share this letter that I wrote to him, right, in 2012, 12 years ago exactly, it's mind-boggling that, April 15, and I wrote the letter April 15, and around the same time that, this is getting recorded, is the time that I wrote the letter and sent it to myself. So it's mind-boggling. And I want to share the story just to showcase who, when God says something, it doesn't matter if you think that you are enough, right? It just matter what God told you and what you're gonna do in this life. It doesn't matter how you feel about yourself. It doesn't matter if you feel like you're enough. All that matters is that you continue to listen to him, and you continue to follow him, and you continue to praise him and walk the path with him, and he'll make it known. So here, that was dear to me, and God asked me to share it, and I'm going to. And please excuse if I get a little emotional. Every time I read this letter, I tend to get emotional because to me, it just feels like I wrote this yesterday. Like it feels like it just happened. Like, because I remember where I was at when I wrote this letter. I was in my mom's house. I was sitting on my mom's couch, and it was in the morning, it was 10:41, as you guys can see here. You can see it, right, Antoine?
Yeah,
The
I can see
screen?
it. Yeah.
Perfect. So you see 12/15/2012 at 10:41, right? And I remember exactly where I was at. And I might get emotional because of it. This was real. All right. So here we go. Dear God, as I lay here crying from the depths of my soul, I question, is this enough? It's a burning desire for something greater than yourself and vision of the unknown to how you'll achieve it enough. My heart is filled with hope, passion, desire regarding the person I see in my head, Melza Success, a world-known motivational speaker who uniquely inspires and helps those ready to receive change get on track and head towards their dreams. My heart is filled with determination and burning desires like flames rising endless that no amount of water can tame. As I tear nonstop, I asked myself, is this enough? I am so messy, need to make so many changes. How will this manifest? Is believing it will and having this burning passion that takes over my soul enough to bring all that I need to start and achieve this lifetime goal? I don't know, and I cry even more. Right now, this is all I have. I'm sorry I'm not perfect. I'm sorry I wasted so many years sleeping, literally, not caring about my life and where it was heading. That has set me back in my mind and causes thoughts to arise of disbelief because it lacks common skills and knowledge that others learned through school or other people that I did not take advantage of. God, I know you are on my corner. I trust you will make this happen.
I desire to contribute a form of real personal change in the world. I know it starts with me. I will not stop until I achieve this for you first and then for me. Thank you, God, for your patience. I love you. Ariana, Melda Success, De La Cruz, April 15, 2012, 10:40 a.m. And like I knew I would get a little emotional. When I wrote that letter, guys, all I had was passion. All I had was this desire. All I had was this vision that God had put in my mind when I dropped out of high school, as I said in the earlier episodes, that I said, like, I was very unmotivated. I was sleeping. Like, all I did was sleep, like my whole life, my whole early childhood into junior high school. Like, I slept a lot. Then I got into alcoholism and I was very promiscuous and I was a hot mess. I really felt that. And even in 2012, when I was like searching for God, like, God, like, I know you called me to do Mentors Way. I know you called me to be an inspiration for the youth and adults. I know that you called me to do all these things and to use my words, right? To use my storytelling. But I had no idea how to get there, you know? And I just remember in those moments, the only thing I had to reach onto was that vision and that desire and the word of God when he told me what is going to be. So I just want to showcase that to you guys, that if any one of you have, God has told you something, any one of you that knows that there's something that you're meant to do, you have a passion, you have a desire, you have a vision, but you feel like you're not perfect, guess what? You don't have to be perfect. God sees you. God saw me. And I don't know why, because I was a real hot mess. I don't know why God kept probing me and he kept seeing me and he kept pushing me. And he never allowed for that passion to ever burn out in me. Never. And I promise you guys, if I did not have that passion, that desire, that burning sensation within me to keep going, I would have been given up, you know? But I had to have faith in what God said, right? So I want to just touch on how faith really brought this home for me, because had I not had it and I just went by what I saw, who I seen myself to be, I would have stopped. I would have stopped. I would have not even tried. I would have just given up. But because I have faith in what God said, because he kept putting that burning passion and desire and vision in me, it didn't allow me to give up despite who I was portraying in the real world to be, right? Because even in 2012, I was still not perfect. I was searching for God. I was looking for him. I wanted a relationship with him. I was trying to formulate something because I needed this thing that was within me to birth. It just wanted to like pop out of me, right? And all I was doing was searching and searching, but still continuing to have some bad behaviors. Because I ain't going to say that at that time I was still perfect, because I wasn't, right? But I was searching. And even though my outcomes of my life, you know, the things that I was still engaging in and still doing, and my mindset and my belief system all weren't there, I can totally see God building my faith that it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter the things really that you're showing the world right now. You're not, as long as you don't give up, you're there, right? What they say, that failure is when you quit. That's the only times that you fail in life, when you completely just surrender, quit, and stop. I never stopped. I might have moments that I paused. I might have moments where I was walking like a turtle towards the thing, but I never, ever gave up. And why? Because of faith that I had in God, and that vision and that passion that did not let me quit. So I just want to encourage you guys that when you have faith, when you have God, that dream that you have that right now seems so far away because you think that, you know, you might not ever become that person, God is on your side. And as days go by, as you continue to work on yourself and lean into him, but you never give up, you can start becoming that person. I know some parts of your story, Leslie. We talk a lot, and you know, we've cried, we've talked, delved into our past, our future, who we want to be. And, everything that we talk about has God in the center, right? And everything that we want to do is to serve him and, possibly even partner together in the future with certain things, certain passions that are very similar, giving back, you know what I mean, to the communities. So I'm very, I'm excited to see that on how God is going to unfold that. So today I really don't know what you're going to bring to the table. So I am very excited and on the edge of my seat, like probably everyone else here is. And so we're just gonna, ask you some questions and really get to know you and the sides of you that God put on your heart to bring to us, so that everyone that's watching can feel a sense of, purpose within themselves, through your journey. You know what I mean? Because we're all in this together and we all can learn from one another. And that is my hope in this podcast, in this season. So Dr. Leslie, can you walk us through a specific challenge or setback you faced on your journey to success, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge is one, knowing when to let go of relationships, staying firm with what God has told me and what I know is the calling assigned to my life, and that calling impacts others. So I can't get caught up with, oh, my best friend wants me to go hang out, but I need to do X, Y, and Z because this is attached to someone else. You get what I'm saying? And then just staying true to who I am as relationships grow, evolve, or maybe they even discontinue. I feel like the season that I'm in, I am engaging in a lot of self-reflection and kind of just sometimes when you're experiencing trials or tribulations, you can be stuck in that moment. And one, you forget what God has done for you. And also like the strengths, like the internal strengths that you have. Throughout my journey, even from a child till now, when you think about my success. So backstory, I'm from a small rural town called Farmville, Virginia. Everyone that you went to elementary school with, you went to high school with, middle school and high school. Like it's two schools, a private school and a public school. That's all you got. Um, and so growing up, I like to say I define what success looks like for me. But as I've grown and I've evolved, ultimately, how I view success is aligned with God's will and what He has for me. So as I've matured and I've encountered different roadblocks, setbacks, and just areas for growth, I've realized that everybody can't go with you on your journey, and everybody is not going to understand or appreciate or value the level of discipline that you have to go get it. And so, my mom is a recovering addict. Uh, as she would say, she grew up in the streets. And so I've spent quite some time in unsafe environments and drug infested neighborhoods, houses, crack houses. I've seen things, I've been around things enough to be street sense and of course very educated and smart. And so, all of that has impacted my drive. Growing up, I would always say, I can't wait to get out of Farmville. But there's a caveat to that. My goal has always been to get out of Farmville, but also to return and bring back to the community things and to give back. One of the things, my idea is like, I really want a boys and girls home, like boys and girls home, group homes, things like that. It's not a lot for kids to do. So I'm mentioning these things because if you're not from a small rural town where I'm from, and it's not a lot of opportunities for career advancement, right? And formal and informal education may be scarce, or the opportunities to receive a certain quality of education, formal and informal, right? Um, you might not have that same
That's true.
drive as I have. I've had a lot of great mentors along the way, and it takes a village, people to step in when my mom could not to guide me and steer me. But the biggest thing I've realized is that sometimes relationships are for seasons. And if God has told me to do something, I shouldn't care what anybody else thinks. They're not going to understand it. I was at church the other week, last week actually, and the pastor was saying, you know, sometimes you can get frustrated with the level of sacrifice you have to put in. And Ariana, you and I, we've talked about that. I'd be like, girl, I be feeling like I have to do X, Y, and Z. Meanwhile, somebody else can do the bare minimum. And I have to constantly go to God and I have to repent because the level of anointing that I have on me and what's attached to my assignment, someone else may not be required for that same level of discipline or sacrifice that is required of me. And so I think you all kind of know, I'm kind of like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what it is. Either you rocking with it or you're not. I do handle people with care, but this is a season where when it comes to my success, it's not my success, it's really God's success because he's doing some things. And so either you're with it or you're not. And I really don't care if you're with it because my goal is to please him.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And we are like so grateful, Antoine and I, to hear more about you, who you are, your journey, and anything that you would like to share with our audience that's going to, you know, play a vital role in their lives to maybe shift their perspectives, to have a better understanding. Just, you know what I mean? Because we all need that. And it's good to have different perspectives because I know we last interviewed Dr. Leslie Davis and her perspective and her view and her challenges. And we just want to now get to see this from your view, your life, your perspective, because we're all so different, right? And, you know, we have different perspectives. So I'm super excited to, you know, ask you a few questions and just, you know, dive a little deeper. So without further ado, Alicia, can you walk us through a specific challenge or setback that you faced on your journey to success, and how did you overcome it?
You know, I love that question because it's not just one instance in my life. I would say every transition, every moment in my life that was like hard for me, whether it was change, I felt like that was shifting me into another step in my life. And like there isn't just one solid thing because I sit back and I'm just like, okay, maybe it was when I was going through my health stuff, like maybe it was this, maybe it was that. And I'm like, no, because in between that journey, there were so many different little things that I had to like sit with myself. I had to transition people in my life out of my life. I had to move. And I'm like, wait, all of those things. So to me, there's not just one pivotal time. I think it's like any time where God, the universe, or anyone, and I say this on my podcast, like God can be anyone who you want it to be. You know, it can be Jah, Allah, whoever, whoever you have that spiritual connection. But whenever that I face that in my life, like on the road, like I talk about on my in Dear God, Are We There? You're like that road trip and you're at a stoplight and you're just like, what? I feel like that was the moment I was like, oh man, what now? Oh gosh, what do I do? Oh wow. So I can't say there's one pivotal moment. I think it's like any time that I'm struggling with anything. But if I had to say one of the highlights of my life, I would say like transitioning to be a woman, if that makes any sense. I think like a woman, not a young woman in my 20s, not even, and it wasn't even an age per se. It's just like a woman being who I am. And I think that growing up Latina and having those limiting beliefs and all these different things, you have all these voices. And then you sit with yourself and I'm like, no, I'm a woman. And I think that is when you realize you are a woman, you are powerful, that you are not all these other things. I think that was the turning point in everything to say, wow, I'm not a little kid. I'm not this, what the people want me to be. So I would say just being a woman and being who I am and taking control and everything that comes with that. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but.
No, it does. And I love it because what came to my mind when you were saying that, like what came to me was like finding your true self,
Yeah.
right? Becoming the powerful woman that you are and seeing yourself. Like you finally got to a place, regardless of the timing, the age, but you know when that shifted and you've seen how everything changed for the better once you've seen yourself, who
Mhm.
you are as a woman, as this beautiful, powerful human being.
Yeah.
And that plays a major role in everything that comes after that,
Yeah.
right? The decisions we make, how we think, how we view others, how we view ourselves, how we
Mhm.
view our faith, how we view just how we move,
Mhm.
right? We
Mhm.
don't tolerate certain things anymore
Oh
because
yeah.
I see who I am. I
Yeah.
see who this woman is. It's not no immaturity. I'm not making decisions
Yeah.
based on emotions, on ego.
Yeah.
I am making decisions as this beautiful, powerful, amazing human woman that I am.
Yeah.
And standing in that,
Yes.
that's what I hear.
Yeah, you got it exactly, because we are told so many things, and especially in the Hispanic culture, if you're Latino and you're listening to it, you could definitely, or even person of color, we have all of these things that are like, it's like a book bag. We have all these things on us, and when we start taking them off in these layers, we start to see this person, and we start loving that person, and we start walking in that presence of that person. That anything that anyone says or does, it does not phase us. And that's why I'm saying, like, all these other pivotal moments, I was able to look in the mirror and be like, what? I'm Alicia.
Mhm.
And I walk and I know who I am. And so I would say, once you understand who you are, and that didn't come overnight. Clearly, it comes with so much different things.
Cool. And we're so excited to get started. We just want to ask you a few questions, about your journey to success. And what comes mind to me is like, can you walk us through a specific challenge or setback that you faced in your journey to success, and how did you overcome it?
Oh my gosh. Ariana, there's so many. So I'll let you pick. Is it the journey to becoming debt free? Or is it the challenge of seeing others around me making more than I did and the bitterness that I encountered from that? Which one?
So, I mean, when it comes to like the challenge and the setback, um, I would like that to be like what you think the viewers would feel more connected with. And I think that I would love to hear what comes to your heart in choosing like which way to go, because either way, they're all going to have their trials and tribulations, and it's all about who you are and how you overcame them. And I'm sure for both there was
Yes.
sets of things that who you are. So for me, it doesn't matter the thing or the what. It's going to be how you overcame it, and we're going to walk through those steps. So it's just, you know what I mean. If you want to do a compilation of both, it's okay. If you just want to choose one, I
Yeah.
definitely want it to be something that you feel in your heart would connect more with the viewers, something that
Okay.
they can take.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, then we'll do both.
Yeah, let's do a
I
compilation of
will
both. Yeah.
start with my, because they're both connected. So
Yes, exactly.
the first one would be when I first started working. This is before I became a strategic business leader. I was working with the company that I'm still working with now. And I started out at the bottom, the very, very bottom. I had no idea how I even got the job. It was very God driven, I believe. I was in the middle of a transition. I'd been working for a hospital,
Mhm.
and I found out that the company that I was working with, the physician group, was being bought out and my job was going to end. And my boss was gracious enough to share that with me, which is not something that happens often. And so he gave me the opportunity to start looking, and I was applying for jobs and still going to work every day. And out of the blue, someone called me and said, "Hey, we're looking for an administrative assistant to come in and work for this biotech company." And I'm like, okay. So I did not apply for this job. I just want to say that. I want to lead with that. But anyway, long story short, I ended up getting hired for this job as an administrative assistant for a huge biotech company. And when they asked me what I wanted to be paid, I just threw a number out. There was no thought, there was no intention behind it. I threw a number out and they were like, okay, that's fine. No argument whatsoever. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, 2 years into me working this job, I had really become a trusted advisor for the senior leader that I was supporting at the time. She is now the COO of the company. And they would share information with me to disperse throughout the organization to the other leaders. And one time they shared a spreadsheet with me that had everybody's pay on it. Everybody in the company. Okay. And in seeing that, this is the challenge and the setback in my mind. Because as I'm looking at this, I'm like, I get paid less than every person in this company. Yet I'm supporting the entire organization, making sure everything is working properly, that everybody has what they need. Hell, in certain cases, I'm doing other people's work for them. Okay. And in that moment, God had to deal with me because I really felt discouraged and I felt like I was being played. And I may be getting ahead of myself, but one important thing that we have to do is see problems as opportunities. You know, I took that and I asked God, why is this being shared with me? Are you sharing this with me to be angry and bitter, which I was? I was not feeling that. And I'm not talking about just a couple of dollars more. I'm saying like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars more than what I was making. Okay. So God shared that with me, and I went to my boss maybe a month or two later, and I said, listen, I said, I didn't tell her anything about the spreadsheet because she knew I've seen it. But I said, you know, I want to excel in this company. I want to be in a role where I am making more money, and I want you to show me how. And she did. And so the challenge and the setback for me in that situation is seeing everybody else doing better than me and feeling like I'm just as good as them, right? But the way that I overcome that is by saying, okay, God, thank you for revealing to me how underpaid that I am. And thank you for giving me the boldness to ask, to be mentored and coached to a place to where I can become the senior strategic leader that I am today, making more than a lot of those other people are making. So that to me was a big deal. And the other thing that led to my debt-free journey as well, because one thing that I've learned is that you can ask God for more, but if you're not stewarding what he's given you already well, you're not going to see the increase. You know, you may see the increase from a paycheck perspective, but if you're not doing what you can to keep that money or to steward those opportunities, then you've got holes in your pocket, right? And so at that time, as I was being mentored, I became pregnant with McKinney, and I had him, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do? How am I going to pay for daycare? I don't even have, like, what is going on, right? And I had to really take a look at myself. So that's the challenge, is how in the heck am I going to pay for daycare for my kid? And how I overcame that was looking at myself and saying, well, what am I doing? Where's all my money going? And laying out, okay, I'm paying for all of these things that are not assets, right? And so I really had to take a look at myself and figure out a plan of how am I going to overcome this? I'm asking, yes, God, I'm asking you for more, but I've got to do better with what I have in order for you to do that. And in that same year, the year that I got the promotion and the year that I started my debt-free journey, things just took off from there. And every single year since then, I've gotten a promotion and I've come to the place where I am today.
But sometimes in life, if you want to get to the other side of things, if you want to change, you have to be willing to take action. That's the only way, and it is scary. And I know that it's something that we want to really touch on in this episode today, because I know that there's a lot of viewers that are probably, witnessing all the success that, the guests that we've had come on the show this season, they're probably like, well, how can I get there? Like, and it's like the main ingredient here is a big part of it, I should say, is action. Right, Antoine?
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
agree?
I totally agree. And I mean, when I look at each of the guests we've had, if we go through it, like Dr. Leslie came on the show, and Dr. Leslie, she is not a real estate investor by trade. Like that's not what she got into doing. And she had this wonderful experience where her grandparents have left her these properties, and overnight she became a real estate investor. And she had a lot of choices to make, but she took action. She understood the value of what those properties meant to her family. And she took action to get herself knowledge and education of how to be a great real estate investor. And she's seeing success. She's thriving with multiple properties that she's renting as an investor, right? And then we had Alicia who came on the show, and Alicia was, this vibrant energy, big personality, and she got the opportunity of a lifetime where she got to go and put a commercial on with Encanto. And I remember her talking about her experience in that moment of like the fears and all the doubts, right, that came up for her, and whether this is something she wants to do or should she do it. And she took action. She went through with it. And what has came from that has been incredible, just from her taking that next step and facing that fear, right? And then I don't know if do you remember Quinn that we had on the show, Ari? I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, Quinn was another
Absolutely.
one. Yeah, yeah. Quinn had an incredible story of someone that was working in a corporate job, working in a large company, and she knew what she was destined for, and she saw all of these people who were making the salaries and living the lifestyle that she desired, and she immediately took action. She asked the right question that some of us probably wouldn't do. She asked the right question of, what do I need to be doing to get there? Like, what things should I be doing now? And then not only getting the answer, but taking the action led to where she is now, right? The success she's seeing now, and was able to raise, like, I think, what did she say? She jumped almost like $80,000. It was some crazy amount. Like she jumped so many
Yeah.
times in terms of pay because she immediately took action. So I think this season overall, has just been filled with so many people that have
Oh, and don't
faced,
forget Ms. Ray.
of
Ms.
course, Miss
Ray,
Ray.
like we recently had her on the show,
Yep.
and with her, she like loved credit, right?
Right.
Like, like having a great credit score, having credit cards, and then her credit score plummeted. And for years, she was trying to replenish the credit and couldn't find the right person. Then she hired somebody, paid $5,000, and Eddie died,
Eddie
right?
died.
And yeah, and it's like her husband was telling her, stop putting money out to like fix your credit, like, give up. And like she went behind his back, and kept looking. Paid somebody, I think it was $1,800, and this person in 30 days repaired her whole credit. And then that person, she paid another 1,800, and he taught her everything about credit. And now she has a multi-million-dollar credit repair company. These people took action, y'all, like action at a whole nother level. And we want to implement some of these strategies of what you can do. Maybe you see yourself in some of these things that we're going to be discussing today that stops you from taking action, so that you can be one of those people that see the other side of what they say they want. It's totally possible. We're human. We all go through it. We all go through our fears. You know,
Yep.
we are go through feeling overwhelmed. It's too much. I don't have the resources. I don't have a coach. I don't have a mentor. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this enough. All of us, right? But
Yep.
there's, certain things that we can start like looking into and paying attention to, shifting our perspectives on, and starting, that taking action steps, because again, anything is possible.
And with that, that is the final part of our compilation episode of 2024. This is the best of the best that we have shot this year, and we wanted to share it back with you one final time. We are just so thankful and grateful for all of you who have supported us through this podcast as we've continued to try new things and experiment and put ourselves out here this year. So thank you for all the likes, all the comments, all the shares. We truly, truly appreciate it. We have one final episode before we finish out the year. This episode will be dropping on Christmas. It is a special episode. You do not want to miss this. We have a special guest that we know you are going to truly enjoy. We can't wait to share this with you. So tune in next week for our last episode of the year as we close out the year with something that is truly special, truly inspirational, and something that would change your life. As usual, if you have any thoughts, comments, or anything that you'd like to share with us, please drop a comment below. And with that, thank you for tuning in. And until our next episode, always remember, having faith in God, having faith in yourself, and having faith in others will create the evolution that you are seeking.